This is the Wild Sage Society podcast, where we explore the ideas and practices that help us live healthy, connected, and purpose-filled lives. Each week, our host, Marcie Walker, connects with healers, spiritual leaders, doctors, and small business owners on topics such as human resilience, conscious leadership, and modern shamanism. Here is your host, Marcie Walker.
Today, I have the honor of talking with Heather Doane. She's an entrepreneur, commercial fitness consultant, coach, and an Enneagram Type 1. Welcome, Heather. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm super glad that you're here. I want to talk a little bit about how you have transitioned or are transitioning from designing health and fitness spaces to coaching in your journey in that, and how you are passionate about helping people make positive changes in their lives.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Gosh, where do I begin?
Wherever you were called to. I know that Jesse was intrigued about your first business with opening a gym in the McCarran Airport. So if you want to start there.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to start there. I opened a business and it was called Zero Level Fitness because it was on the zero level of the airport underneath baggage claim. And I just saw an opportunity. And I think this goes back to coaching too. Like the airport community seemed very unhealthy. There was a fitness space that had been there before, and I was actually looking at the equipment. So I was thinking about, it was a 24-hour fitness that had shut down and had been out of business for several years. And I thought, I could buy that equipment or store equipment. And I was talking to the airport about a bunch of different things. And I went on site and I thought, gosh, so these people could really benefit from a corporate wellness program. And background being in fitness and wellness, I pitched it to them kind of in a meeting about other things. And they said, yeah, we're interested, put together a presentation. And so I did, and it took about 4 or 5 months. And then they agreed to, after a lot of negotiation on lease contracts and things like that, it was with the county. So they said, yeah, well, we agreed to run it for, and it was, so I had it for 5 years. But I grew it and then ended up selling it to another company called Elevation Corporate Health that has about 50 locations across the country. But it was amazing. It was a 13,000 square foot facility, primarily catering to all the employees of the airport. And then the 74, I still remember how many companies operate out of there, including Delta, Southwest Airlines, Asia Meso, so all these corporations within the airport as well. And we opened to passengers, which got really interesting. And I opened up we had some offices and I converted them to sleep rooms, which ended up being one of our main revenue sources. So I was like, man, these people are just tired. Not everybody needs to work out. They need some sleep.
I think you were on the cutting edge of that.
Yeah. I mean, it was, our staff meetings were around strengths, right? Because that was my passion too. So I was working with my team on growing and developing them and, their dreams and goals. But some of our conversations were, let's make eye contact with everyone who walks through the door. Let's get to know them as people versus just checking them in. So I had a great team and, we focused on that. And I honestly think that and NLP, I was in NLP training at the time. Neuro-linguistic programming was a type of coaching. And I think those tools helped that company be successful because, we loved it. They loved having us there, and we got to do a lot of really, really fun and innovative things on site and, at an airport, which is just interesting because it's open 24 hours and crazy things happen. And
I can only imagine. One of the things that Heather and I connected over was Gallup Strengths, and some of the languaging that has come through with Gallup Strengths that I think that has really kind of helped me not only in my professional life, but my personal life, is balconies and basements. And with that languaging, I remember doing, I think it was one of the presentations that you did, for Power, the Power of We out of Las Vegas. And I came back with the command strength. And I was really irritated about that. And it's been within the last few months that I've been able to come to terms with the balcony of it, because I was always looking at it from glasses half empty. So Can you talk about Gallup Strengths and Strengths Finders? And
yeah, I would say it's funny because what first popped into my mind when you said it, I remember talking with Sharon about it from Power. And I say, when the first time I took strengths, I felt like, I don't, it's extreme to say it changed my life, but it really did. I think at that time in my life, it was so impactful to get some feedback in the sense of, this is what you're great at or good at naturally. I just didn't know that. I mean, it sounds right. A lot of people just don't know it or don't own it. So to have the words and the language around what you're great at, and Gallup is a Strengths Finder is an assessment that you take that you're self-selecting, and then it gives you your top 5 strengths. Well, actually, your 34, but the lower cost option is your top 5, which even that is just enough to work with, right? It's my top being achiever. So I'll go into that a little bit is I was so achievement driven, right? And the balconies and basements, I was really connected to the balconies, not so connected to the basements, and how that was really just taking a toll on me. But yeah, strengths is such a valuable tool in, I even think, self-worth, right? Developing self-worth and focusing on what's right with people versus our world is so focused on what's wrong. How do you get better? What are your weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses? But let's just figure out what you're good at. And that quote of, I always get it wrong, but it's, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking, I think it says thinking it's an idiot, but thinking it's stupid or something. But it's like, if you're directed towards something that has nothing to do with your natural strengths and talents, and you define yourself through that, that can be, not a great place to be. So,
and I love how you integrated it into Zero Level Fitness, and then you were already talking about emotional intelligence in a corporate environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I even did workshops with. I did it with Department of Aviation. Before I was certified, I was like, let's do everybody's strengths. Let's teach everybody yoga. Let's do everybody's strengths. Let me get anything in front of you that I can.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I've connected with is how efficient we became in our masculine energies, because as you as an achiever, we've had to really compete in those masculine spaces. I mean, fitness.
Yeah.
Construction.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this morning. And now that I'm coaching, professionally, right? I'm contracted with BetterUp, who just partnered with ICF, by the way, which is fabulous. I'm so excited about that. But I really now shift back and forth, right? And I'm aware of it. Okay, I'm shifting into this energy. But I spent so much time in that in sales, right? Because I work in the construction side, selling equipment. And spending so much time in that masculine energy, I was just so numbers driven. So, what are my, the conversations with the company that I work with are never, how are you doing? It's, are you gonna hit your number? And I was driven by that. I love business. I love being successful. I love a good sales transaction, and it gets me excited. I always want my name at the top of the list, like whether it's CrossFit or sales. I'm frustrated if I'm not in the top 5. So I lived in that energy and being an achiever, so much that I reached a point of exhaustion this last year. I say exhaustion, maybe I wasn't exhausted. I was depleted and unfulfilled, which led into my traveling, but I'm still in both worlds, and I enjoy it, but I know that it can't be all of what I'm focused on.
Yeah. Is it hard to dance on both sides?
As I'm getting more and more clients, I have to, I call it and it's a resource anchor, right? That I've created because I'm all NLP, stepping into, I gotta step into my coach mode. I gotta kind of step into it. So I create space in order to do that. I make a shift, right? So I have to consciously do that, because if I go straight from electrical outlets and sales clothes, and it's hard for me to be in the space I need to be in to really serve that, my client in that time.
So for our listeners, what is a resource anchor?
It can be many different things, but let me think of one that's like your alarm goes off and you get out of bed, right? Would be an anchor, something that's there that guides you to your next step. There's plenty of ways to create them for yourself, though. So that's just one. I wouldn't say it's positive, negative. It's an anchor, right? It's something that happens that triggers you to do something else. But it could be like we have one in NLP. It's called the circle of excellence. And you can spread out your circle of excellence and then step into it. And as you step into that circle, you're kind of in that frame of mind. So it's something that can get you to shift. There's more to it if we wanted to create an anchor, or create a resource anchor. There's a lot more to it, but just kind of in the snapshot of it, I would say something that triggers you in a positive way to either, it could be as simple as sitting up straight right now is going to help my energy. Rolling my shoulders down my back is going to make me feel a little more confident. So it could be physiological, just a shift in your body to, ramp up your energy. It could be before you go to bed, like having some tea, or turning the lights down, or lighting a candle. So how to get into a relaxed state.
So what is your resource anchor to shift from masculine to feminine and into coaching, or switching from electrical outlets to coaching clients?
But so right now, like when I'm kind of in front of my computer doing stuff, I will make sure that I have at least a 10-minute window. And I stand up, I get my posture in check. Sometimes I'll change because I'll be very businessy, and then maybe I'll kind of change what I'm wearing or be more comfortable in coaching sessions. I always want to be relaxed, at ease. So I take a couple breaths. I try to calm my nervous system down depending on what I came from. Sometimes it depends, honestly. Depends on what I'm doing, but I always stand up and I take a step forward as I'm stepping into coach mode.
That's beautiful.
So I take that physical step. Sometimes if I'm low energy, I'll do some jumping jacks. Okay.
See, I was trained in NLP as well. And so I do body-centered hypnotherapy. And one of the things that I teach from the very beginning is creating a resource anchor. And so we use an okay sign to do trauma resolution. So that's kind of the baseline. So I'll have clients think of 3 peak experiences in their lives and tune into the story. And then once you tune into the story, then the sensations come up in their body. And once you tune up the sensations as high as they can go, then we fire the resource anchor. In this case, it's pressing your thumbs and forefingers together to make an okay sign, because you're more than okay. And then once the sensations start to subside, then they release their anchor. So then what that does is, with practice, that it can pendulate between states of anger or happiness, depending on where they're at.
That is that is the steps behind creating it. Yeah. Love it. I have one. Yes. I have one here where created through my peak experience that I use for confidence, or if I'm about to do a presentation.
That's awesome. Yeah. I have an HR manager that puts her hand on her heart to remind her to speak, that she's trained that one in, so she can speak from a place of compassion. It's pretty amazing. Do you want to talk about your Eat, Pray, Love? Because you did mention travel.
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone else is calling it my Eat, Pray, Love. And even when they're like, oh, you're on it. And I was like, no, I'm gonna. It went from, at first, I was like, I'm having a midlife crisis, to I'm going on a vision quest.
Well, I guess it wasn't love. It was self-love. So
self-love, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a little, but yes, mostly self-love. Yeah. It's funny, I was thinking about it again this morning, and I was like, how did I get to the point of this is what I'm doing? I think I'd been thinking about it, and then I was listening to Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And there's a part in there that talks about you've reached this point in your life, and, things aren't what maybe that you've done a lot of the things that you thought you would do. And it's like, is this it? So I'm listening to this on a flight. And I was like, that's pretty much where I'm at, right? I'm like, is this it? Is this all I'm making a good amount of, I've created these things and I've done some, I've bought some property. Like I was doing really well. I'm doing well financially, but I was unfulfilled. And so I'm like, I need to discover what's going on with myself. So yeah, I traveled for 2.5 months by myself. My sister met me the last week. So I guess not completely by myself, but I went to Thailand, Bali, Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji.
That's pretty incredible.
And I did a master practitioner training. Well, actually both. I went through the practitioner and then I went through my practitioner for NLP in Australia. Yeah, so it was incredible. I did a lot of yoga in Bali. I was there for 3 weeks. I actually went to, the New Zealand part was a cruise with Abraham Hicks. So it was workshops. So it was just like a full immersion into my own well-being. And I needed to learn to trust myself more. 'Cause before that, I was kind of, I knew I was unfulfilled, but I was surrounded by people that they invoked my childhood trauma. It's like they created more awareness for me around my childhood trauma.
I mean, that's what relationships do, right? They teach us more about ourselves.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have given like an earlier version of yourself?
I feel like I don't even know that person, right? Don't worry so much. Like it's all going to be okay. Yeah, it's all going to be okay. And I'm still telling myself that today. It's all going to be okay.
It's all going to be okay.
Yeah. This is like maybe going down an interesting road, but I had a conversation on Sunday with one of my friends who's like, we all have a round trip ticket. No one's making it out of here alive, right? So I think like live your life and do all the things that are true for you, that feel right for you without hurting people along. It happens, but never intentionally, right? I don't ever hurt someone along the way, but do everything that you want to do here. So I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I think we all are. What does it feel like when it's right for you in your body?
Well, now I'm aware of what that feels like in my body. And now I'm more aware of what it feels like when it's not right. Like my nervous system, just that awareness, right? I don't think I even had that language before the last couple of years of knowing like what that was. And I think we, some of us, I operated in that for so long, right? I just thought it was normal. It's like that anxious state, always worried about what's going to happen, what's next. Like I was constantly like revved up. Even though, I'm certified in yoga. I spent 3 weeks in Costa Rica. Like I've been practicing yoga. I've taught yoga, I teach yoga, but I still wasn't like real connected into that. I may be able to like know how to change my body fit in the fitness realm, right? Or body comp, but I wasn't in tune with my nervous system. So what it feels in my body is safe. Like it feels peaceful. It feels at ease. It feels like, non-resistant, right? That there's enough, like it's at ease. And one way I think is like when you say my name, right? I say my name is Heather. Like I know that it resonates with me. If I said something else, my name is Marcie, like I can feel that in my body now. It feels different. So being able to have that awareness is really important. And it's something we're not ever taught. Like we're not conditioned to be like, what is your body telling you? If anything, we're conditioned to not pay attention to it. I think in America, and I would say in my, upbringing.
Yeah. And childhood trauma, we learn to be hypervigilant and then we learn how to tune those things off. One of the things that I liked about our conversation leading up to this was, leading up to the podcast was talking about how people outside of the United States were referring to the United States having such dense masculine energy.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot of the takeaways from the trip. Is just America's crazy. I mean, I love America, right? But we're just very masculine. Yeah. So questions that people would ask me were specifically Uber drivers. Like the first thing is like, oh, you're from America? Are you from the US? Do you have a gun? like, there's so many shootings. That was the first thing people would say. And I just didn't realize how aggressive, like, we're so aggressive in everything we do. It seems like, I was like, we're like an angry teenager trying to prove ourselves in the world, which that's such a bigger conversation. And politics and capitalism, and like, I could go deep, but on a very surfacey level, it was interesting to hear people's perspective of the US. In Australia, I was telling you, they have a show called, I was like, after class one night, let's turn on the TV and see what their news is about. And they had a show called Planet America. It was like,
it's the Reno 911 for the entire United States.
I felt like it was there wasn't this edge. And I mean, Vegas I feel like that even living Vegas sometimes. I'm like, okay, I can put my guard down a little bit. Like, I go to Portland a lot. Or, I just travel a lot. So I'm always like, okay, let me like get my guard back up. And it's something I wasn't even aware of. Right when I got back, my mom, I was in Portland, I was having dinner with my mom. Like, we can't walk in. Do you see that guy? He's pacing. Looks like he may have a gun or a knife. Like, let's just hold on a second. And he seemed, maybe he was on drugs. I don't know. But I didn't see that anywhere else. Like, I didn't see that in other places where you feel like, okay, let me assess the situation. I felt oddly safe traveling around the world by myself. Then I'm flying into Bali at 2:00 in the morning, thinking there's a driver that's going to pick me up and take me somewhere. And I never once, I mean, I'm sure that isn't everybody's experience, but people were nice.
I just find it fascinating that the first question was, do you have a gun? And then to be able to fully, truly be safe in another country and didn't notice that you had your guard up. There's something about that.
Yeah. To feel more relaxed outside of this world, this space was interesting to me. And sad a little bit, right? I was like, and I didn't feel ready to come back.
How do you live a connected and purpose-filled life now?
Yeah, I think it takes I have a different awareness, right? And I have to be more connected. I think looking back and how it led up to that was like a loss of connection to myself, to spirit, right? Whatever that means to everyone has their own view of that. But I think I had lost that connection I wasn't feeling a lot of hope. I was, I don't think I was depressed, but I think I told you this. I went to the doctor and I was like, before I kind of blow up my life here, let's make sure there's not something wrong with me, because my energy was so low. Like, I felt maybe I'm sick, right? Maybe there's something wrong with me. Because I lost this like zest for life that I always kind of had. And when I didn't have it, I could find it through just managing my health, right? Get enough sleep, eat healthy. Like, maybe I'm off track, amp my workouts out, and I would feel okay. It was beyond that, right? So I was like, maybe I'm sick. Maybe maybe there's something wrong with me. So he was like, I go to the doctor and he was like, I think you're depressed. And I was, it upset me, because he immediately wrote me a prescription. And I thought, I was like, look at America, right? But I don't think I realized that at that time I wasn't thinking America. I was thinking, I'm struggling right now. And I'm not fulfilled. I know that. But I don't know that it's that I need medication. It's that I'm disconnected. So how do I find my way back to my own source, right? My own trust, my own connection to something higher than just my day-to-day selling a treadmill, right? I was like, I'm not doing the things I'm meant to do here. And I've been doing some things. Like, I was doing some workshops with strengths, and I was getting all my certifications, and I've been training and coaching, but I was still like, just something's off. And until I fixed that or addressed that healing within myself, I wasn't ready to kind of move to a next level. So now I think, meditation, right? Pausing, taking time and noticing when I'm off. And now I'm very aware of like something that happens or comes up. I notice it in my body, not just reacting. I pause and, okay, what do I want to do with this, right? What meaning do I want to make of this? How do I want to guide this? And if something doesn't feel right to me, I'm just not going to do it. And that was going back to the work situation. I think, during that time when I was presenting for Power, I was going through all of that, right? My boss at the time was like, basically harassing me and a bunch of weird stuff going on. And it took a long time for me to find my voice to speak up about that and push through being okay with whatever happened, right? They let me go. Okay. If like I thought I might lose my job if I said anything, he had power over my day to day. So, but now I feel a stronger sense of like, if this isn't right for me, it's not right for me. And that's okay.
Sharing your story and being vulnerable, I know is really, really big for you. And I just want to honor you in sharing. I was sexually harassed at work too, and didn't feel like I had any choice about it. I was working for my dad's company. There was one day when me and a couple of the foremen ended up having to go to like a conference, and it was out of state, and we went and had drinks, and then one of the foremen walked me back to my hotel room, and he pinned me up against the wall and he kissed me, and I punched him and I gave him a black eye, and I got in trouble for that. And just living in that whole state, I can still viscerally feel like how I would have to shrink my energy up just to not be seen on a daily basis. And I think that was one of the big contributing factors to my autoimmune, is just not fully showing up as myself.
Absolutely. And that's why I knew if I didn't change something, I was getting sick, right? I wasn't feeling well. And my body was like, it's beyond just getting enough sleep and eating healthy. You have to fix these emotions that are going on and getting to the root of it. And it was this particular person that was a new boss for me at a company I've been a contractor for 10 years. Right. So I was like, I'm not new here. Like, I don't know. It was interesting, the dynamics. But it was beyond just that. It was the install group I was working with. It was the relationship I had at the time. It was all kind of came up for me, right? It's like, I guess you don't get to choose when all of this can come up for you, but the lesson in it was I needed to face some things that had happened in my childhood. A lot of that, like catering to other people's feelings when they're against what I feel. So that was early on very conditioned in me. So I was like, facing that.
And that's how your achiever was born, is because you did to be loved, right? And so then going back to the balconies and basements that got overused until it created enough awareness. And I was having a conversation with a client today about how we create these relationships that until it's healed will attract another relationship that gets louder and uglier until we really have to pause.
Mm-hmm.
And really take a look at our stuff.
Yeah. I've been having this conversation quite a bit with my sister, and it's just similar patterns, right? Of alcoholism, narcissism, and the things that we're attracting. And we're like, gosh, what, but at some point, and I think I'm getting to that point now, versus learning about what narcissism is and addictions and trying to help people through it. It's like, what responsibility do I have in that, right? And attracting that or allowing that, because then I can work with that. But if it's just, I'm trying to shift that conversation when I'm having it with myself or with people around being like a victim of that, and being where's the empowering place to come from within that.
It is awareness. And when we had that conversation, when you were going through the heat of things, that was almost a year ago. Next month would be a year. So congratulations on your journey.
Yeah, thank you.
And fully stepping into who you are. And I think purpose is just right around the corner, and feeling that fulfillment on a cellular level.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to some of your other podcasts, right?
So specifically, what was your takeaways from those?
The masculine, feminine energy, and hearing a male perspective on it, right? And interestingly, I was telling you, I had a conversation on Sunday with one of my friends who's a yoga instructor, very spiritual, a man. And we were just talking about how the masculine and feminine energy not being male, female, right? And how we're in these roles. But what I found interesting was his perspective on like what men need, right? To feel good. And it's like they need that feminine energy. And he was talking about how that's given. He was talking about they go to work, right, and come home, just want kind of like that nurturing state. And I feel like as a woman, like what for me, I can speak for me, right? That thriving on giving that nurturing. It's like, I feel more energized when I'm nurturing, but when we're spending most of my time in masculine energy, I'm exhausted. So it was interesting to hear a different take on that a little bit. So yeah, I thought that was a great.
I can validate your feelings, and I feel the same exact way. When I'm more loving and nurturing and creative and flow, that it is definitely easier to have more energy. And, I think in the past that I was just conditioned to be the leader in the relationship. And, thinking that if I could hold this down in this space and get all these things done, that he would rise to the occasion, whoever he was at the time, but they never did. And I didn't get that balance.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so then I think like the nurturing became more mothering. And then it was like, who wants to have sex with her son?
I heard you say that. Yeah. The mothering. And the being okay with him saying being really okay with yourself, and if you weren't in a relationship. And I was like, that might be too far there. Totally good. Might be too far there.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Yeah. He kind of like put you on the spot there, right? But in a good way. And you were like, yeah, I said that. Yeah.
Yeah, he is one of my dear, dear friends and mentors. So I did appreciate that he called me out.
With that mothering, though, I wonder too, because I see that in, I don't know. I'd probably have to ask one of my ex-boyfriends, but my sister is very mothering and very, I wonder if part of that, and I don't know if you've told me, I know we have some similar childhood things, but the need to be in control. If everything feels out of control, it's like that need to control things, which is masculine, right? But it comes but also mothering.
I think it derives from a feeling of not feeling safe. So we're trying to control the environment. And then if we are planning and trying to get everything done in according to the schedule, then we're controlling the outcome. And mothering, I just feel like it's still emasculating at some points, and then it's like, well, why would they want to do anything? Yeah, the specific client that I was talking to today, he's in a position where he feels damned if I do and damned if I don't. And so we were just actually in that kind of conversation out.
Which women, we do that sometimes. We put people, I don't know why, especially in personal relationships, it gets to, and I think you touched on it too. It's like, if you lose respect for somebody, it's hard to, then it is kind of like, whatever they do seems not great, right? Which is a self-reflection in ourselves of noticing that and being able to let things go.
That part of your brain that's constantly looking for that one thing, So it's like he was feeling that he couldn't do anything right. And that even if he did go above and beyond and do the little things, that those little things weren't noticed, because then it was still like, oh, well, there's this wrong. So then her brain's automatically looking for, on hyper alert, looking for all the negative things instead of going like, oh, he cleaned the toilet, or, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Do you find yourself in the masculine role in relationships? Do you find that you find yourself in that?
100. Yeah. And so I've been in the masculine role, and then it was like, okay, well, they're not responding to this. So let's try this. And then it gets to the point where I feel like, part of the question that I asked Troy was, how do you get past the point of when you feel like you're the only one doing all the things in the relationship? And the whole time I'm dying on the inside, because it's just I want to give up control and I want him to take the lead, but they weren't ever stepping up into that capacity. And I will take I'll own my part in that. But I think it goes back to childhood conditioning.
It's our early influence of what a relationship is. And if we can be aware of it and choose something different, that's what's great, right?
Yeah. And I look around, and it's like, okay, well, who do I have that is a positive mentor in my life for relationships? I have positive mentors in my life for, business, and I have positive mentors in my life for other things. But for a marriage, I'm like, I'll get back to you when I finally figure that out.
This is such an interesting topic lately. I feel like I do have some positive ones, like within my family.
Okay.
But I feel like anyone I talk to, I don't know if I should say this. a lot of I'm having a hard time getting it out. But a lot of people lately are saying that cheating is normal, and I don't agree with that. But they're like, it's just that's what happens in long-term relationships, and I'm like, I'm not. But I keep hearing this, and I don't know why I keep hearing it. But
that makes me so sad.
It makes me sad, right? It makes me sad. But I don't know, like, how common is it? I mean, I'm sure there's data, statistics, but is monogamy reasonable? And I'm like, for me, if I'm going to be really committed, if I'm going to be fully committed in a relationship, like, I expect the same from the other person. But I don't know if that's a common view. I don't know.
Going back to the part where we're talking about knowing what's right for us in our body, when I think about being in a relationship where I've cheated, and what was missing for me, and then there was a time where I was cheated on, and it was easy for me to be the victim and be like, "Ooh, I was cheated on," and make that the thing that I was going to lie on. But then I had to do some serious self-reflection and think, where did I give up on the relationship first?
Yeah, right. More responsibility. Yeah.
And that was a really hard thing to come to. And it's like, and then thinking about, going into a relationship now and, that cheating being normal, that's every cell in my body says, fuck no.
Right. Yeah, me too. And I don't know. It's like, I mean, then you layer that with all the social media and technology changes and things that are going on. But that, I don't know. What is the future of relationships and humanity when it comes to that?
Well, this is making me super happy that Elena Charles with Authentic Intimacy is going to be one of my upcoming guests, because she talks about all sorts of relationships, and she talks about polyamory and pleasure and all the things. Now we'll have to circle back in this conversation after we hear what she has to say. What do you think polyamory?
One of my best friends was in a polyamorous relationship for a while. I don't think it would be for me. I am not interested in it, but she's a therapist, and she was like, she totally understood the structure and she was okay with it for a while. I think that honestly, I think everyone's different. I think we have different preferences and people want different things. And I think it's like, to each their own, but know what yours is. Know what you want. Know what your boundaries are. Know what you like. Know what you don't like. And so many of us don't take the time to figure that out. That you're just like, oh, this person is interested, or I'm interested, and then you get in this situation and they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. So I think it always goes back to just knowing yourself.
And that amount of honesty to be able to be upfront and be like, hey, I'm interested in this, or, I don't want to be in a committed monogamous relationship. I've never experienced that amount of true honesty
from someone else.
Yeah. To be able to be in that kind of conversation.
Yeah. I've had a lot of like about this lately. It's intriguing to me.
It is.
I think I've always kind of been like, if I can't be 100% like faithful to this person, then I can't be in this relationship. For me, right? When I was younger, I was probably not great. I think I cheated when I was younger. I did. But I think now, or, probably the last 10, 15 years, being able to say, like, if I can't be fully... So I think with that view for me, I would expect the other person to be that way.
Yeah. And it's still coming back to that self-awareness. Like this, there's just been this red thread of self-awareness and knowing yourself throughout this entire conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that self-trust, right? Trusting what's right for me.
Yeah.
It's not always easy when you're used to trying to please someone else, right? So that's what I've learned, is sitting with that uncomfortableness of, this is going to disappoint them. And that's okay. But I wasn't always able to handle it.
What feels worse, disappointing someone else or disappointing yourself?
Well, I don't even think I was aware of it before. Mm-hmm. Like it was my go-to to disappoint myself. So I didn't even know, which probably led to that point of, feeling totally disconnected. Because when you say it, obviously it's worse to disappoint myself, but it's still a little like, it's hard for me. I have to be aware of it.
So what does the rest of this year look like for our self-aware achiever?
So I gave up half my territory for the business that I built over the last 10 years with designing fitness centers. So that's been good. So a little less on that and bringing on more coaching. So I think I told you I've been doing contract work for BetterUp, and I had put so much pressure on myself to start my next business. So I have up-level coaching and I'm doing some workshops, but I'm really just enjoying the variety of clients that I'm working with BetterUp. I mean, so I have clients that work for BlackRock and Deloitte, a lot of just large American corporations. And it's been awesome. So I'm just kind of loving that right now and going all in. And then I'm getting to my PCC level with coaching. So that's kind of the next level up for ICF, so ACC to PCC, and just continuing that and allowing myself to be here now instead of always like, I got to do this and I'm doing this and I'm working towards this. I think that's my achiever learner, right? Where am I going? But I'm like, I've been working to get to this point. And I think just like my fitness career, that's been long. I mean, I've been in this industry for, 20 years. And I think coaching, they overlap and they connect. But I want to take the time to build this really solid foundation. And then, I would love to write more and contribute more, whether that's, a book or blogs. Honing my skills, I guess you could say, right? Practicing and working with people and just understanding like how to be great in this space before I push myself to be like, I'm here, everybody, and I know that I've been working on it for a while, but I think I did the same with fitness. I've taken a long time to kind of, I probably had every certification you could imagine in fitness. From CrossFit to yoga to spin to TRX to bar, I've taught it all, right?
But it was like how to be more, right? And so now you're discovering, instead of you're shifting more from doing to being. And it's beautiful to witness.
Oh, thanks. That journey was definitely learning how to be. It was the theme. And connecting these dots along the way, right? Trying to really pay attention rather than just, this is what I said I was going to do, so I'm doing that. It's like, as things come up and being guided in different directions and allowing that instead of just forcing where I think I am supposed to be.
I love that you're giving yourself permission to pause and really check in with yourself.
Yeah, it's good. What does the rest of the year look like for you?
I am doing the same dance of learning how to be a recovering perfectionist. I'm learning how to be more present in the moment instead of planning my whole everything out. This is the first year that I have not made goals for the year at the end of the last year. And I still haven't really made goals for this year, which is, I know on a kinesthetic level where I'm being guided to go. So it's about listening to what's right in front of me and paying attention to the signs. How can people find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, you can go to my website, www.uplevelcoaching.com. Yeah.
It's spelled, it doesn't have E's in it, right?
UPLVL.
UP.
LVL, yeah. Uplevel. Yeah, that's probably best. Or Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Thank you for taking the time and meeting with Jessie and I today and sharing your story. And I love watching you and witnessing you, and I'm always here to support you. So if there's anything I can ever do, I'm just a text away.
Oh, thank you. And to make it up to Reno and come to one of your events.